Hey everyone, this is Ryan Coppery. Before we kick off the show, we just wanted to say a quick but huge thanks to all of our new listeners. We've been growing kind of nonstop, and that's really, really cool. So thank you all so much for listening. If you are enjoying the show, we'd love it if you could take 30 seconds and do us two big favors. First, if you could just hop over to iTunes, look up the What If podcast, and leave us a quick rating and review of the show. It helps us out more than you know. A ton of really awesome people have already been super kind on there so far. So if you could go do that for us, that would be great. And second, share the show with a friend. I know me and Spencer know our favorite podcasts are the ones we listen to and hit up our friends and say, yo, did you listen to the episode about spaghetti? That shit was crazy. So share the show with a friend if you think they'd like it. Hit us up on Twitter at WhatIfPod. And remember, if you want to share episode ideas or your own wild experiences, or you want to make fun of us, send us an email at hi@whatifpodcast.com, and we'll put you on the show. All right, let's kick things off.
Welcome to the What If podcast with your hosts, Spencer Webb Davis and Ryan Copperood.
What up?
Hi, Spencer.
What's happening?
What's up with you?
Oh, I've just been thinking about aliens all day, and
Just another Tuesday.
yeah, pretty standard shit around here.
Just a standard day in the life of Spencer and Ryan.
Wondering about what if I saw a UFO?
We got a new question on the What If podcast, as we do every week. What if you saw a UFO? Mm-hmm. Do you know how long I spent thinking about grammatically whether it should be N-UFO as in A-N-U?
It should be, but we're not going to do that because it sounds stupid.
Homie, don't play that.
Yeah.
What if you saw a UFO? Have you ever seen a UFO?
No.
Never, not even. Have you ever even had a moment where you were like, could it be a, and then you were like, nah?
Unfortunately not, no. I would love to.
I know. Unfortunately is 100% the word I was going to use.
We met some people who definitely have on Saturday.
Oh, man. All right, guys. You are in for a treat because we had a treat that we are going to share with you.
We took a little What If podcast field trip this last weekend.
Oh, my God, Spencer, you're Miss Frizzle. You're Mr. Frizzle.
Yeah. We took a ride on the Magic Hyundai out to the suburbs to attend our local chapter of MUFON's monthly meeting. Minnesota MUFON.
MUFON is not a curse word nor a slur, even though it sounds like it could be both. MUFON stands for the Mutual UFO Network. Correct. Which I learned this weekend by attending one of their meetings.
You had never heard of it before?
No, never.
They've been around for I don't know how long, but
well, judging by the age of the people in the room, they've been around for a long time.
They've been around for I think they have been around for decades, though.
Okay.
But yeah, the Mutual UFO Network, they maintain a database of founded 1969.
Wow.
Damn. They maintain a database of UFO sightings on their website. They have, I think, chapters in every state.
That's awesome. Like literally everyone?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Cool.
They have people that will go out and actually investigate sightings. So if you see a UFO and you report it to them and they think it's legit or interesting, they will send someone out to investigate. Yeah,
this was interesting to me. They had keep going. We'll talk about the organization and then we'll talk about what actually happened at this meeting.
I mean, that's kind of the
gist of it.
Yeah, the crux of their work.
Yeah.
They have I think a monthly publication. All the local chapters have meetings, like the one that we attended.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we went up to, for any of you Minnesotans, the New Brighton Community Center every second Saturday. If anyone would like to join us.
Yeah, we will.
It's $5 or $3 if you're broke and barter with the lady sitting at the counter.
Spencer sent me like a screen grab of the event information, and I was like, looked at the date and the time and didn't realize that it cost $5 to go. And I had no cash, and we were in a community center in New Brighton.
We showed up with $6 between the two of us.
And we were like, it was like $3 for members and $5 for non-members, and we're definitely not members.
Not yet. Yeah.
And we just held 6 ones out in 2 hands and was like,
is this enough money?
Can this be money?
We can't count. But yeah, we were the youngest people in the room, probably by 20 to 30 years.
There was a kid there who obviously came with his grandparents, who was like in and out of the room the whole time. And obviously was not psyched about there. But yeah, we were definitely the youngest people in there.
There were probably,
20 years.
Maybe 50, 60 people there?
I would say it
was a bigger group than I expected.
I agree.
Seemed like most of them knew each other from previous months.
Well, yeah, that was
we missed the social hour. They didn't put that on the website.
That's real.
They had snacks and coffee from 1 to 2, and we didn't know.
We also missed the after party.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't want to go to Dude's house where he promised that we would see UFOs afterwards.
So what had happened was we watched a documentary, which we'll talk a little bit about this documentary too. We should talk about it after the meeting.
Stephen Greer's Unacknowledged.
Who also did Disclosure was his first documentary.
Sirius, where they found the little tiny... He runs a Disclosure project.
Yes.
Sirius was the other, SIRIUS was the other documentary they did maybe 2 years ago about the little tiny alien body that they found. And anyway, we can get into Stephen Greer later.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. But they have a little meeting. They like introduce all their people, their field reporters. So like the people that actually go out into like Minnesota and Wisconsin and investigate actual cases. They all stand up and wave and go like, "Yep, that's me."
Yep. They argued about membership dues for a while.
Sure did, which definitely makes sense to me. There's probably a lot of fixed incomes in that room, just judging by that age. So people were like,
sense. Yeah.
"Wait, what? They're going up by how many dollars?"
Or when you joined in the 60s, it was like a nickel a month.
It did not cost $15 a month to get a publication sent to your house when you were 30 years old in the 70s. But yeah, so they did some meeting minutes and argued about some dues. They showed a documentary, and then we took a break. Gotta have a bathroom break. Spencer and I walked around the New Brighton upstairs track in the community center.
Beautiful community center, by the way.
Beautiful community center.
Shout out to New Brighton.
Again, if you're a Minnesotan and you want to see a beautiful community center in our state, and also
join us the second Saturday in July, and we'll go to the next MUFON meeting.
We're gonna go hang out. They got a new I can't remember the name of the speaker, but they're bringing in some writer and speaker next month as well.
Erica Lucas, who I haven't had time to look up yet.
Okay, cool.
I took some pretty thorough notes during the meeting, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, we got to the real meat of the entire meeting.
We met Big Mike, bro.
Yeah, we did.
We met Big Mike
in a very incredible way.
I'm fairly certain the bullet point on the meeting minutes at the beginning was Big Mike and his excellent adventures.
Yes. Which instantly, when I saw the outline, I was like, that's what I'm here for. We can skip the documentary. We can skip everything else. That is what I came here for.
It was like if this went real south, we totally would have walked out of this community center, except that we saw this bullet point that said Big Mike and his excellent adventures, and we're like, yeah, we're going to have to see where that goes.
So Mike told us a story of his most recent encounter with UFOs.
Well, Mike told us, for what it's worth, a few stories.
Right. I'm going to just go through my notes because I took notes on his whole story.
I think that's cool.
And I was writing as fast as I possibly could to try and keep up with all of the wild shit that he was sharing with us.
Can I paint a picture of Big Mike really quick for people?
Please.
So Mike is a heavyset older gentleman wearing suspenders over like a Carhartt t-shirt tucked into his jeans.
I believe it was a MUFON shirt, was it not?
Oh, you're right. It was a MUFON polo shirt, and he had his MUFON hat too.
Because Mike is actually the lead field investigator for Minnesota.
That's right.
So if you file a UFO sighting with MUFON and you live in Minnesota, Mike's going to be the one coming to check it out.
And Mike was like, I think he's originally from Tennessee because he mentioned just getting back from Tennessee. So I don't know if he maybe snowbirds in Tennessee and lives here in the summers or something like that.
He's definitely got an accent going.
Little Tennessee twang to his voice. And just like kind of like a very sweet, urgent, energetic guy. Like
he seemed genuinely nervous to tell this story too.
Oh, he was like physically shaking for like a significant portion of it.
Yeah.
But I think, well, we can get into more about comparisons later, but I just enjoyed his general demeanor. Actually, Spencer and I talked about this. We're Gonna see if we can either get him on the show or if we can interview him maybe there at like next month's meeting.
Yeah, I would love to be able to hear him tell this story in full.
Yeah.
And to be able to actually ask some questions about it. Because there were so many parts of the story where I was like, wait, but.
Yeah. And he just kept flying because he was like, and then this happened, and then this happened.
Yeah. And it's a combination of multiple stories. And yeah, I would love to just be able to sit down with the dude and be like step by step. Okay.
Totally.
What happened and when and.
We'll tell an abbreviated version in hopes that we can get a less abbreviated version straight from the horse's mouth at some point. But yeah, so this so Spencer's got good notes on Big Mike and his excellent adventures.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to summarize here. He started out by telling one story and then kind of jumped. He was telling one story about, this was fall of 2015. A bunch of people in the room were at a MUFON conference together in Vegas.
Yeah, it was like the national convention they have every year, which we also considered.
It's coming up in July.
Buying tickets for and going to. You guys, we could get you very good audio, I think, if we did it.
So he was in his hotel room in Vegas, and I guess he had a ruptured Achilles tendon.
He said it had like separated
Achilles tendon. Yeah. So he was like laid up, couldn't walk, I guess, and he's laying in bed, and 3 gray aliens entered his hotel room.
Which he said he didn't notice over the sound of his snoring roommate and the CPAP machine that he had on his face for his snoring. So he said he didn't notice the sound of them entering his room because of those sounds, and then he woke up to see them in his room, in his hotel room in Vegas.
And he said that so it was him and another guy sharing a room. They took his roommate out of the room, out to like the little like patio, whatever,
deck, balcony,
you got a balcony thing. Yeah, you guys know what I mean. And then came back in and gave him a shot in his ankle that fixed his separated tendon.
He said that he had literally scheduled surgery in the Twin Cities, like for like what he said, like a month later or something like that. And that he went into his doctor upon returning, and they were like, "Hey, you don't need surgery anymore."
And okay, so they miraculously healed this man's separated tendon. He said he took pictures of the alien fingerprints on his leg. Right. And he said that 7 people at this conference were abducted that night, and that they recall seeing each other aboard this alien spaceship. All of those people were in that room. He gets that far in the story and then just totally changes lanes.
Spencer didn't.
I had so many questions for this dude.
Yeah, you're like, we could spend a day and a half on this story.
Yeah.
That Spencer didn't hear it because I was like sitting to the left of Spencer, but there is a dude that was like 4 rows up from me, sitting next to another gentleman who, because of his older age, had not the best hearing. So throughout the course of the meeting and the documentary that we watched, his friend was leaning over occasionally to fill in his other friend on what he was in fact missing throughout the course of the meeting. And as Mike proceeds to say that 7 other people were also abducted that evening, were in that room, my guy 4 rows up just leans over to his hard of hearing buddy and just goes, "I was there," like in his ear, like hard. "I was there."
Like, stop. I need to know way more about this. You can't just say "I was there" when the dude says we were abducted by aliens.
Get that man a mic. Like,
right?
Can we all have microphones in this room?
And also, how have you not told your friend this until right now? How long have you guys known each other? This was almost 3 years ago.
How great would it have been if his friend had just stood up and gone, "What in the fuck?" And Dave, what in the fuck are you talking about?
And that's the other thing. His friend is just like, "Oh, yeah, okay, cool. But shut up, though. I'm listening to Mike."
He's like, okay, we'll talk about that over beers. I got to hear Big Mike right now.
So he says that 7 people in the room that we were in, like 15% of the current people in that room were abducted together.
Oh, my God. It's so
And then
cool.
just moves on to a totally different story.
So awesome.
And the totally different story he told was about a year later. So he said November 10th of 2016. He's out in Wisconsin and he's bow hunting.
He said he owns like a piece of land with a trailer on it out there, but he lives in Minnesota.
Yeah. So he was hunting, and at about 5 o'clock decided to head back to his trailer, and he sees this glowing white object come down from the sky, and he guessed it was about a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile away and about 500 feet up. And it stopped over a house about a half mile away. And at first he thought it was a helicopter, like a DNR helicopter. And then as it started moving towards him, he realized that it wasn't that, but he wasn't sure what it was. He just saw this like bright glowing light.
Right.
And he decides, for whatever reason, to flash his flashlight on and off at it. So he's got a flashlight with him. It's starting to get dark out. He points the flashlight up at this thing and like clicks it on and off 3 times.
Which, like, good on you, Mike, because I don't know that if I was seeing the first UFO I'd ever seen in my life, if I had to have the gall to be like, hey, man, come on over.
Well, he also said that he has been encountering UFOs and aliens since he was a kid.
That's true. He did. So it wasn't his first one.
And he works for MUFON. So maybe he obviously knows some things that we don't. Maybe that's a specific strategy. I don't know.
Real talk.
But it apparently worked, because he said there was this curved front edge of this object that lit up with 12 white lights around the edge. And then above it, there was one sort of reddish orangish light.
And then like a cockpit yellow light or something like that.
Yeah, he said it looked like a cockpit or a control room above it. So as this thing is getting closer to him, he's starting to be able to make out more details of it.
Bro, I remember for a second there, he was like, it's like a frowny face.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're the sweetest man.
So yeah, it was like
this
curved edge of lights that he said made sort of like a frown.
He called it a frowny face. It's so cute.
And he was saying as he moved his flashlight from side to side or up or down, the UFO would mimic the motion that he was making with his flashlight. And he said he did this for 45 minutes. Of just moving his flashlight back and forth and the UFO moving back and forth with it.
He says later, which I'm sure you'll get to, and maybe we're skipping ahead, but like he said at one point that he had 30 seconds of video.
Well, hold on. Yeah, that's later in the story.
Okay.
Because he said this story happened over the course of 8 days.
Yeah, it was like a whole week long of...
Yeah. And I may have missed some stuff too in my notes, but I was trying to keep up with him. And he was on the phone with another guy who was also at this meeting. So he sees this thing, he calls his buddy, and then is like messing around with it with the flashlight.
Right.
And he said then a second UFO appeared that looked the same.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned and did the same thing with his flashlight, clicked it on and off 3 times.
And it responded the same way.
And it started responding the same way. And he said, I started playing with it, just trying to see like what it or they or whatever would do. And he said, yeah, so the guy he was talking to on the phone had to like get on a flight or something. And he said, so then he took 30 seconds of video. And again, I'm like, show us the video, Mike.
Mike, good story. I love you, bud. I would really like to see that video.
You have a phone in your hand that we're assuming has the video on it, and there's a projector next to you. I think we can figure out a way to make this work.
Happen. Yeah.
And he said he interacted with them for 2 hours with these 2 UFOs.
So wild.
And then he decided just to come inside and get something to eat.
Which
he's been interacting with these things for 2 hours. They're still out there, and he's like, yeah, I'm over it. I'm hungry. Which is, it sounds super weird, but also is not totally out of character relative to other UFO stories and encounters that I've heard. People will just like go home or get back in their car or just walk away from whatever happened without being able to explain it. And then looking back at it later being like, that was really weird and not something I would ever normally do.
Yeah. One of the stories I saw when I was researching this episode, a guy has like a kind of almost a fuzzy-ish memory of like why he was doing what he was doing when he was doing what he was doing. Like said he took photos he doesn't remember taking, and said he like called his night when he was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, that was crazy. That was happening to me at that time, but it made sense to him to be like, all right, I'm done with this now.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people will say, I just felt compelled to go outside and look in this certain direction. Or I just knew that I had to go do whatever. And they don't have an explanation for it. It might be out of character, but they just, for whatever reason, were compelled to do it.
For sure.
So he goes back inside, and then later kind of thinks back on like, oh, that was really weird that happened. And then I just kind of ignored it. Maybe I should go back out there and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And he said it was...
Check on the UFOs quick.
Yeah, he said it was now about 11 o'clock. So this whole thing is unfolding over almost 6 hours.
God damn.
Yeah. He goes back outside, and he said there's now a third UFO with different colored lights.
I forgot about that.
And he said he got the sense... So there were now 3 UFOs outside. 2 of them are still near his trailer. And he said the third one was further down the road.
Right.
And he got the idea somehow that the 2 initial UFOs he saw were trying to distract him from the third one.
Yeah, that's right.
He said they were like moving around a lot and flashing lights. And he got the sense somehow that it was to distract from whatever this third UFO was doing. And he decided to instead start flashing his flashlight at this third one now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the third one started coming towards him. And he said that at that point, for whatever reason, he started getting really freaked out.
I guess it'd be one thing if you felt like you were doing like a little bit of a dance, like I go here, you go there. I go here, you go there. But then if you're like, I go here, they're like, I'm coming towards you. You're like, oh wait, oh God, it's different now. It's very different.
I bum rush your trailer. And at that point he went inside, locked the door, and he said he just started praying and went to bed. And he doesn't remember anything else happening that night.
Per St. Michael, y'all.
Yeah. The next night, he's out during the day and sees another UFO. And it starts following him as he's driving in his truck. And he drove home and like parked his truck, went inside, talked to his wife for a minute, and looked out the window and saw this thing outside of his house.
Right.
And said to his wife, hey, come look at this thing. And he said it changed its configure. Actually, he said he changed his configuration, meaning the UFO he was referring to as he.
Yeah, yeah.
So that he looked like a star. Which makes me think like, were you just seeing a star?
Right.
But he also said that this was during the day.
Right.
And he said his wife, quote, for some reason she wanted to see a star when she looked at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did phrase it kind of interestingly.
As if, I got the sense that he was, we can get into this more later, but people will often talk about like screen memories. So they'll see something that is like presented as something else.
Mm.
So a lot of people, when they will later recall like, oh yeah, I saw an alien, but for some reason I thought it was an owl.
Mm.
And then when I got closer, I realized it was not.
It's like when you have like a dream and you're like, exactly. You were there, Spencer. I mean, you were a red Solo cup, but it was definitely you.
Right,
like your brain thinks it's something, or your brain can intuit that it's something, but it physically doesn't appear to be that thing.
And so that's kind of what I felt like he was getting at, is that she saw it differently than he did.
Yeah.
Just because of how her brain was processing it.
But didn't he say too that the next morning she like apologized and was like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Like I felt like I couldn't see what, not couldn't like as in I couldn't see it, but couldn't as in like almost like she was like distancing herself from the reality of the situation.
So she said to him the next morning, I was really freaked out and just didn't want to deal with what I was seeing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Shut the dough.
Yeah.
Shut the dough.
And just kind of shut down. But that could also tie in with like the next morning thinking back on it being like, wait,
Did I see that thing?
Yeah. No, I didn't see a star. It was daytime and it didn't look like a star, and that wouldn't make any sense. And why would Mike be pointing out a star to me?
Right.
So yeah, she came around to, I guess, seeing whatever he saw.
Right.
And then the next day, Mike was running out of time.
Yeah,
because someone else needed room 244 at the damn community center. We cut Mike's story off early, right when he was getting to by far the juiciest part of his story.
10 to 5, gotta go.
Yeah, so at 4:50 they cut Mike's mic.
Before Spencer says this, part of the reason that he is upset that we did not go to the after party is because the after party was drinking Coors Light on Big Mike's deck,
where he guaranteed that we would see a UFO because he sees them, quote, almost every night.
He did say almost every night. That's true. We should have gone.
This man offered us free beer and free UFOs, and for some reason you didn't want to go.
Oh, I would have brought beer. I would have brought all the beer. All right, we'll go next month.
So the last part of his story, he was back out deer hunting, and he sees...
Same week, though, right? Like, this part of the same stretch.
I think it was, like, the next day.
Okay.
He didn't say a date, but, yeah, within the same week. He sees this UFO again, except this time it comes down and lands in the field.
He said, like, 100 yards away or something like that, like on the other side of the trees, but far, like close, but far enough away, he saw it come below the tree line.
Yeah. And he got down out of his deer stand, and he sees 4 approximately 3 foot tall gray aliens walking across the field towards him, and a 4th 4 foot tall gray alien that he described as the other one's mentor.
Yeah, three 3 feet tall and 1 4 foot tall.
Mentor alien.
The mentor of the rest of them. He said they were holding little, like, he called them...
He called them like
light rods,
light sticks or something. It sounded like a flashlight, basically.
Yeah, but maybe more like a full glow stick or something like that is what I was kind of envisioning the way that he said it.
He just saw a bunch of kids having a rave out in the field.
Raving children.
He walked in on the midget rave.
Oh my God. In the middle of northern Wisconsin. He said he hit him with the flashlight right and they dispersed.
Yeah, but he then also said, so he carries a recorder with him.
Yeah.
And he was recording audio of this.
Not weird, but crazy.
Of this interaction. And he said when he listened back to the audio that the timing of the audio versus what he recalled didn't line up.
Yeah.
And I think he was implying that there was more time elapsed on the audio recording than what he remembers. And as he's getting to the part where he gets abducted by these 4 little aliens, we're out of time. We gotta evacuate the conference room because there's probably like a chess club or something coming in.
Yeah, man.
This man is breaking down how extraterrestrial life is here on our planet, and they're intelligent, and he knows all about it, and he's been with them. And we got a break for this month.
Time for the birthday party. Everybody leave.
Yeah. So I would love to have another conversation with Mike.
I would too. I think we're going to try.
A conversation with Mike. I would love to see those photos. I would love to see that video. I would really like to get a hold of that audio that he apparently has.
I'd love to go hang out on his deck. And he said he has infrared goggles that or not infrared, but night vision goggles that he uses to look up.
Yeah. So we're going to try and track him down, see if he'd like to talk to us.
But otherwise, if you want to go to a MUFON meeting, you know where to find us.
I'm going to go next month. What's a better way to spend a Saturday afternoon and $5? I can't think of one.
I can't think of one either. Especially, where did everybody went out to like a local restaurant in New Brighton for dinner and drinks together?
There was like, this really really beautiful social aspect of it too. Like they were spending the whole day together.
Totally. People are like there to talk about their experiences and their curiosities. And I found this crazy video online. Like, it was super, super great. MUFON, man.
It was a trip. Greer's movie is whatever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it. Stephen Greer does he's collected so much great information and then just does a horrible job of presenting it and makes the entire thing about himself.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to he claims to have all this information and then all that's presented in the movie is a few people with
a lot of
dubious backgrounds
with
just saying like, no, I know this without any proof or any evidence.
And much more so in like the second and third acts of the movie. Like the first act of the movie is the stuff that I actually like, which is like military pilots being like, yeah, this one time on radar, this happened and it was really crazy and everybody told us to not talk about it.
Even those stories, though, a lot of them are second and third hand. He only had maybe one or two people in the whole movie that had firsthand experiences they were willing to talk about.
Fair, but I think more so the second and third acts are like them drawing these ridiculous conclusions.
It got totally out of hand towards the end.
Totally out of hand. Like the first act, I was like, all right, I'll give this dude a chance for another 45 minutes. And like 15 minutes into that 45 minutes, I was like, fuck this.
I've made the wrong choice.
This dude is just on one and like, yeah. You can watch it if you want to, unacknowledged. Like, I guess check it out. There's a couple cool pieces of footage and a couple cool interviews, but for the most part, it's like super over dramatic. And there's some really like random awful cuts in there for no reason of like
so many.
The whole opening credit sequence is set to What a Wonderful World, and it's like
just really
horrible violent imagery
just a
for
really
no reason.
hacky film. It's in terms of filmmaking too.
Yeah.
I think Greer is just sort of generally like I don't know. I don't trust that dude. I think he's doing most of what he's doing to call attention to himself.
Right.
You know, he made the whole thing about himself and how many people he knows and how important he is and
who he got asked to give updates to.
I talked to the former CIA director. Look at me. Check out this gun I carry on my hip. Cut to my close-up. I'm going to pretend to cry about this next part. Like, I don't know.
I think I said this to you in the car driving home, but to be at a meeting like that of people who are like, I mean, I would say they would probably call themselves like UFO enthusiasts, people who have seen them or are interested in them, etc.
Or actively research them.
Go hear other people's stories about them. And I'm faced with Greer telling his stories and Big Mike telling his stories.
Yeah, there was way better information from the people in that room.
I bet so much more money on Big Mike telling his own personal truth.
Absolutely.
It just came across so much more like urgent and authentic and honest. And it was. Yeah.
And I'm sure there were 20 more of those stories in that room.
Hell
or, other experiences. Or
at least
I'm sure a lot of those people have seen really good evidence too. Like you don't go research these things around the country without finding something.
Right.
I don't know. I would have much rather heard what the people in that room had to say than watch Greer's fucking hacky movie.
I was there. Well, let's talk to that guy.
Exactly. I would have rather heard that guy for an hour.
All right. This is the What If podcast. What if you saw a UFO? We heard from some people who did. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna talk about a whole bunch of people who did see a UFO. Oh yeah.
This could be a long one.
Yeah. We're gonna let it probably get a little out of hand. Why not?
Yeah.
And buckle up. Take a pee break. We'll do the same, and we'll meet you back here shortly on the What If podcast.
We want to hear from you. Send us a message. Email hi, that's hi, at whatifpodcast.com.
We're back.
We got visitors. No, we don't. It's just the two of us. I lied.
God, it would be so much creepier if we did have visitors.
We might.
Spencer, when people say, "Do you believe in UFOs?"
Yeah.
Do you make a little chuckle? You're like, "Yes, I believe in UFOs because."
Well,
they're not.
I don't know what anyone means when they ask that question. I think usually people mean, "Do you think that aliens are here on Earth, flying around in spaceships?"
Right. Because by definition, a UFO. I feel like we still make this confusion in society all the time. Like a UFO is an unidentified flying object. It means that based on the information we have at the time and the place, we don't actually know what that thing in the sky is or was. And
which
that can
obviously happens all the time.
For sure. And sometimes it's a lot more conspicuous and confusing than others. But yes, I believe in UFOs because there are unidentified things in the sky regularly. Do I believe that they're from outer space and extraterrestrial origin? I don't know.
Okay. This might be helpful.
Let's do it.
J. Allen Hynek was a UFO researcher and astronomer, and in 1972 wrote a book called The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry. And he's responsible for the, it's called the Hynek scale, but they're types of close encounters. So, for instance, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie, is based on this scale.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Are you serious? Oh, shit. That is a phenomenal movie.
I have not seen it.
It's a great, great movie. Okay. So there are 3 to 4 to 7 degrees of UFO or alien encounter.
It's levels to this shit.
C. The first is visual sightings of an unidentified flying object seemingly less than 500 feet away.
Oh, so proximity is involved. Okay.
Mm-hmm. People have, so he put out 3 types. People have extended the scale in both directions. So people have below that, for what he called the first level, have also added lights in the sky. So just unidentified lights and unidentified radar objects would be below that scale.
Sure. Like things you can't physically see, but that tools are telling you are present.
Or that you can see, but you can't see any sort of definition of it.
Right.
You see a light in the sky, you don't know what it is.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's not a normal terrestrial object, but right now you don't know.
Sure.
So that's the first kind. Unidentified flying object that appears to be less than 500 feet away. The second is a UFO event in which a physical effect is alleged to have happened. So this could be something like interfering with an electrical device. So you hear the reports of my car stopped working.
Camera's dying.
Or my camera died. Or on the extreme end, it turned off this nuclear bomb or missile that we were going to launch.
That was a weird one.
There are a lot of those.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It also would apply to physiological effects such as paralysis, or just leaving any sort of physical trace, like an impression in the ground.
Okay.
Scorched vegetation, some sort of chemical trace.
Mike's fingerprints on his leg.
Yes, but
he got touched though.
Right.
Oh,
so
shit.
The third type of close encounter, a close encounter of the third kind, is a UFO encounter in which an animated creature is present.
Yo.
So that includes humanoids, robots, or humans who appear to be occupants or pilots of a UFO.
Oh, snap. Okay.
So that would be seeing an animated thing,
Yeah.
a living thing in addition to the UFO.
Yep.
So he had those 3 types. You often hear about the fourth kind, which refers specifically to abduction. So Mike actually had a close encounter of the fourth kind because he was taken somewhere else by the occupants of the UFO.
Mike's got a full house.
Yeah.
One of each.
So those are like the 4 most common ones. People have added 5th, 6th, and 7th, which involves direct communication between aliens.
Oh, sure.
Which was actually named by Stephen Greer, which can involve any sort of communication. So speaking, telepathic, whatever. 6th kind would be death of a human or animal associated with a UFO sighting.
Oh.
But it says, although some might consider this as a more extreme example of a second kind encounter. So, for instance, if you see a UFO and then you go out in the field and there's a mutilated cow out there,
that would be like
is that a physical trace of that UFO?
Sure.
Or is it killed something? And then 7th, and we're not going to get into this today, I don't think, unless you want to, because this is really, really out there, X-Files shit, is the creation of a human-alien hybrid, either by sexual reproduction or artificial means.
Yeah, I mean, we can feel like we have plenty in 1 through 6. Could be a distant part 2 option.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're going to hit some version of all of those first 4. So anywhere from seeing something in the sky to being taken aboard that thing in the sky by a living creature of some kind.
Oh, damn.
The more like modern UFO era kind of started in the 40s. But I was trying to trace back the earliest documented what could be considered UFO sightings.
Yeah.
And got all the way back to like BC era.
Well, I remember for a period of time there was people who were trying to draw comparisons in some like romantic art from like a long time ago, and also like some of the biblical stories even that have things about like fiery chariots from the sky and sort of taking some of that language. And
it gets really tricky though, because those things have all been translated multiple times.
Right.
What a chariot in the sky, A, what was that originally translated from? B, is that meant literally? Because religious texts are not necessarily literal.
No,
and
for
in
sure.
fact, they're often intentionally not literal.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's
no,
really,
for sure.
that stuff is just purely speculation. And a lot of the really early stuff is because any record we have, we don't know the cultural context. We don't 100% know the language.
Right.
But yeah, there's written records going as far back as 1400 BC in Egypt of fiery discs that were encountered floating over the skies.
Damn.
And then really all through 8th century, 9th century, and then obviously it picks up in the 18 and 1900s because we just have a better record of that stuff.
Sure. Plus, I would imagine like the popularization of things like telescopes and...
Yeah. Although, I mean, most of these encounters don't require any sort of special technology of any
it's just
kind.
Shit that people saw. Yeah, you're right.
But the whole like UFO flying saucer thing really started in the 40s with the Kenneth Arnold sighting in 1947.
What year was Roswell again?
Roswell was also 47.
Okay.
So the Kenneth Arnold sighting was a couple months prior to Roswell.
Oh, interesting.
Or maybe a month prior.
But definitely was not inspired by the Roswell crash.
No. So Kenneth Arnold was a pilot who saw 9 UFOs flying past Mount Rainier at a speed that he estimated to be at minimum 1,200 miles an hour. So any planes... Now, I'm assuming that's impossible, much less in the 40s.
Still impossible.
And it actually, so he reported this, and it actually got picked up in the press and got picked up by national press. And this is the story that coined the term flying saucer. So prior to this news report in 47, that term had not been used to refer to UFOs or any weird shit in the skies.
I didn't know
because that's how he described them to the reporter that wrote the initial story, was that they looked like flying saucers.
Yeah.
So that kind of popularized it in American culture.
I think part of the Kenneth Arnold case too that also maybe helped to popularize the concept as well was that I got a quote from the article that I was reading that said Arnold had the makings of a reliable witness. He was a respected businessman and an experienced pilot, and seemed to be neither exaggerating what he had seen nor adding sensational details to his report. He also gave the impression of being a careful observer. These details impressed the newspapermen who interviewed him and lent credibility to his report. So I think there's something to be said for, like, you know, if Dave the drunk down the street's like, I saw some lights in the sky, and everyone's like, yeah, okay, Dave the drunk down the street. But like a sober businessman, well-respected, detailed report, a pilot, like, puts all these things together and is just like, look, I'm just telling you what happened yesterday. Like, it was broad daylight, wasn't it? I think it was, the flight was during the day.
Yeah.
There's like a part of me just wonders if there was enough things that came together to make him like a very reliable version of, like, you know what, maybe this is more normal or common than we.
More, yeah. more believable.
Yeah.
It was also corroborated by some other people on the ground who claimed to have seen the same or similar objects at the same time.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Although that's hard to know for sure too, if that's, was that reported independently or prior to this becoming a big news story, or were other people like, yeah, I seen them. They were up there.
Right. I see what you're saying.
I don't know. So that was kind of the first big pop culture reference to UFOs and flying saucers. Although there was also, throughout World War II, there were what were called the Foo Fighters. There were many reports of pilots during the war seeing planes, not planes, flying objects that they couldn't identify. And things that would, either be moving way too fast or erratically, or would appear and disappear without explanation.
Damn.
So yeah, if you want to search, I guess if you just search Foo Fighters, you'd probably get mostly the band. But
Foo Fighters, not the band.
Yes.
Actually,
if you search Foo Fighters UFO or Foo Fighters World War II, you'd probably get what you're looking for.
I'm going to see what Foo Fighters, not the band, actually turns up.
And then there was also the 1942, what's called the Battle of Los Angeles. We're just making all the references to 90s rock bands right now. Rage Against the Machine called their album Battle of Los Angeles. This is February of 42 over LA. There was an unidentified object that was then attacked by anti-aircraft artillery.
Oh, good.
And basically, there was a UFO, and the Army tried to shoot it down and spent a lot of rounds and artillery doing so. A total blackout of LA was ordered.
What?
And they started firing machine guns and anti-aircraft shells into the air. Over 1,400 shells were fired.
Is this a real thing? This really happened?
You've never heard about this?
What?
Yeah, Google Battle of Los Angeles, dude. It's fucking crazy. Several buildings and vehicles were damaged, and 5 people died.
Because they were trying to blow a UFO out of the sky?
Yeah.
What year was this?
42.
Did we think we were like getting attacked or something like that?
Yeah.
Damn, son.
This would have been right after the end of the war, right? February of 40. Sorry, right after the start of the war.
Yeah.
So, Pearl Harbor had happened just before it. You're on the West Coast.
Right.
I'm sure they thought it was war related, but they were not able to shoot it down, and no one knows. If you find the photo, there's a really crazy photo too.
Really?
Yeah. Of the object with a bunch of like searchlights on it, and they were trying to shoot this bitch down.
I feel like for some reason some of those older the older reports to me are for some reason more credible, because flight was like a rarer thing. Like there weren't a shitload of helicopters around. There weren't any drones. Like,
right. There shouldn't have been as much up there to begin with.
Yeah. Just, again, I know those things existed. Yeah. There were flares and stuff like that too, but just generally the volume of them seems to be like, there just wouldn't be much shit in the sky in general. So
we still got to do the 1890s airship thing sometime.
Yeah. We'll talk about airships more later, I think.
That very much fits with that.
Damn, is this a real photo?
Yes.
All right, we should put this on the website. Okay, yeah, just Google Battle of Los Angeles, and there's like a History Channel photo of... No, this can't be real. Is this for real?
Yes, dude.
Whoa, this is on History.com. A Los Angeles Times photo of searchlights in the skies during the air raid.
Mm-hmm.
There are like legit 2, 4, 6, 8, not like 10 plus searchlights on what very much so looks like a fucking flying saucer.
And that they spent 1,400 rounds on and didn't do shit to it and killed 5 civilians instead.
Wow, this is fucking wild.
Yeah. So give that a Google. 1947 was Roswell. I'm not going to really spend time on that. If you don't know about Roswell, there are other people who can give you a way better description of it than I'll be able to. And then what really kicked off the whole abduction wave was in 1961, Betty and Barney Hill. You familiar with that one?
No.
Really? Damn, dude.
Benny?
Barney and Betty Hill.
Oh, Betty Hill. Not Benny Hill as in the...
No.
Insert Benny Hill theme song here.
So they allegedly were abducted by aliens in 1961. And it's the first, like, widely publicized alien abduction.
61?
Mm-hmm. So they did... I mean, there were news reports. They did interviews. They did like a press, not tour, but like they were open to talk to TV and radio and press about it, and did frequently. So they were driving home and saw this weird light come up and over them, and they pulled off to the side of the road because they felt like it was following them and didn't know what it was.
Where is this?
This was in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
And they were on like this rural highway, and they pull over and they're both kind of scared because they don't know what's going on. This thing seems to be following them, but they don't know what it is. And Barney opens up the trunk to get his gun out because...
Don't make me pop the trunk.
Barney goes to pop the trunk.
Uh-huh.
And then they remember being back on the road driving home.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of... I mean, that's now a trope in alien abduction, UFO encounters, but
right.
they experienced the whole missing time thing where they remember pulling over, getting out, and then instantly being back on the road driving home. They drove home, realized that they were missing a big chunk of time and couldn't remember what had happened or what they were doing.
Right.
And if they had been driving the whole time, they should have been home earlier, all this stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then later started recalling more of the story. Said they were taken aboard spaceship, that they were subjected to weird medical experiments, a lot of it being sexual and reproductive in nature. They went through hypnosis to try and remember more of what had happened. So in a lot of ways, it was... there are many, many abduction stories now that sort of mirror, for whatever reason, what they experienced.
Right.
Or what they claim to have experienced, with like the medical examinations, the weird like sexual preoccupation,
right,
the missing time, the hypnosis, the hypnotic regression aspect to remember more of what had happened.
Right.
So that was the first time that any of those things were out in the public and being reported on.
Yep.
Betty also claims that they showed her a star map of where they were from.
Star maps! Get your star maps!
And that they pointed to, and she was able to recreate a drawing of what they had shown her.
Oh.
And an astronomer identified the star that they had pointed to as Zeta Reticuli. So that also popularized that being like sort of a sci-fi trope that's where aliens are from. And it's a somewhat near to us star.
That's good that she identified as somewhat near to us star. Would have been
right.
Weirder. Well, I guess it wouldn't have been weirder.
And like, I mean, that information was available, but probably not super easy to track down in 1961. I don't know.
No internet.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably go to the library and find a star map in a book somewhere. I don't know.
Explain it to me.
Well, I can't.
Unidentified.
Yeah, and they stuck to their story forever, and
that was never 20 years later. Yeah, we thought it'd be fun to prank the world.
No, and they had kind of a bad time of it too. And they're actually, I'm not going to play them because they're kind of disturbing. But there is audio of them going through hypnotic regression
and like talking about what happened.
Yeah, and like screaming and crying and being terrified, and like it was a very negative experience for them.
Ugh, yikes. I do find that it seems like from the stories that I did research, the older ones seem to be like less cool, like both from the outcome after the fact as well as like the actual experiences themselves that people have. They like seem to be generally
less cool, meaning like
generally a more negative experience. Okay. Whereas like not until later, I feel like in the 90s and stuff, was it like, yeah, we like hung out with like the aliens and it was like cool.
There was definitely what they were called the contactees rather than the abductees.
Uh-huh.
So in the 60s, especially,
There were some people in the room at MUFON who self-identified as that.
Exactly.
For the record.
So I think you can draw a distinction between, and many people do, between abductees, people who are taken against their will and have these negative experiences where they're subjected to terrible things.
And people who like go hang out with aliens.
And the contactees where,
cool.
where people who go have these really positive, enlightening, spiritual experiences, they go willingly. It's an enjoyable, enlightening experience, which also strongly correlates to like the late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
Sort of the hippie era. There were a lot of people would come back with messages of like, Mother Earth is dying and we need to take better care of her and we're all in this together. Yeah. And so like, I don't know. I think you could chalk a lot of it up to just sort of the culture at the time.
Sure.
And it was, we were exploring space for the first time and all these things kind of sort of nicely aligned to point to maybe people just telling stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could definitely draw a distinction between the contactees and the abductees, so to speak.
Makes sense.
But yeah, Betty and Barney Hill were the first abductees taken and having horrible things done to them against their will.
Yikes. No gracias. See, a dude like Big Mike who had a history with MUFON, he was playing flashlight games until that one started coming towards him, and he was like,
But we don't know what his experience was either. That's true. That's the worst part. We don't know if he had a good experience or not with the aliens.
Well, based on the fact that he ran inside and slammed the door and started praying.
But that was before he even saw them. He just was scared because of the one ship.
That's true. But still, if I'd had a good experience, I'd be like, you guys, come hang out with me.
Okay. So just getting to our actual question for a second.
Yeah.
If you saw a UFO.
Oh man.
Say let's first say we'll go through the different scales. Say you saw a craft in the sky that you couldn't identify or explain, either because it wasn't the shape of a plane or a drone or a helicopter, or because it moved in a way that they shouldn't be able to, or whatever. You were like, that's not
something's weird.
A thing that I can identify.
Sure.
What do you do?
I mean, I think my initial inclination would 100% be to follow it or try to track it, like try to not lose sight of it.
Okay.
And
just for as long as possible.
Yeah,
just to gather information.
Probably to a pretty ridiculous scale. Like I'd be like, well, now this is my day. For hours if need be, if not more. Because I would be like, it's like seeing a unicorn, You're like, I don't know how long this is gonna last or if it'll ever happen again or what the fuck I'm actually seeing. So I'm gonna indulge in it as far as is necessary. Yeah. And then the other thing I would do is I would document. I think those would be my initial two inclinations.
Photo, video,
anything I could do to get a better, because one of the things,
other witnesses if possible.
Yeah, for sure. Yell up, yo, hey, does everybody else see this? Because I do think one of the things about a lot of the documentation stuff that was interesting when I was looking into some of this stuff as well is how many people use the documentation to rule things out or rule things in, as in there are a lot of experts who will go, no, that looks exactly like X, Y, or Z blimp from a mile and a half away. And yeah, it does look kind of weird because it's moving slow, and depending on it moving closer towards you or vertically or whatever, it can make weird motions that don't look like airplanes. And yes, there are blinking lights because blimps are supposed to have blinking lights, but from far away, they can look really weird and not like blimps. But based on some sort of documentation, you can rule things in and out. And I feel like I would want that from my personal experience for people to go, oh, that was definitely this. Or to have people go, well, we checked 9 boxes and it's none of those 9 boxes. So we don't really fucking know what you saw.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of confirmation bias going on with a lot of people too.
Sure.
Of I have an opinion about what I think UFOs are, and therefore I'm going to look for evidence that supports that or doesn't support it.
Totally. That's why I really like that Chilean Navy case that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, is just because they got video, 9 minutes worth of military video, and the country released it after 2 years being like, Yeah, we pretty much had like every expert we can possibly find to look at this, and nobody has an explanation for it either direction. So we're going to let you guys think about it.
Right, which is like, yeah, that's a very reasonable response. All right, second kind. If you, there's a great example of second kind, by the way.
Yeah.
The Rendlesham Forest incident, which I think overall is probably one of the best UFO cases ever.
Is this the military base in the UK?
Yeah, it's American I think Air Force base in the UK. Multiple people saw these things over multiple nights.
Yep.
There are a bunch of different records of it. There is... Hold on one second. I think I have a book about it.
I'm pretty sure there's a book in here about it because I think the first time that I saw it was in this book, and then I hopped on Wikipedia like later that week and read more about it and was like, what?
Yeah, so there's a really great book, a really thorough account of this whole thing written by Nick Pope, along with two of the guys who actually witnessed it.
Like we're physically present.
Yeah. So two of the Air Force guys who were there and were the two primary witnesses, along with Nick Pope, who's a former UK defense somebody.
Ministry guy.
Wrote this book together called Encounter in Rendlesham Forest. It's just so detailed, and there's so many people that experienced it.
Yeah.
And they're all credible people. They all have a lot of experience identifying, they're on an Air Force base. They should know what's going on in the sky and around them.
And how things that are up there move or don't move
and there were I brought it up because there's one that it's one that has a lot of physical evidence along with it. They saw something land.
Yep.
There were depressions in the ground where it landed. There were raised levels of radiation in the area where it landed. It like scraped and broke tree branches and stuff as it landed and took off.
Didn't one of the guys who actually saw it see like the outside of the UFO? Didn't he say there was like symbols on it or something like that?
Yeah, so they saw the outside of this craft, and they said it had like characters or hieroglyphic looking writing on it.
But it was like indistinguishable, right? It wasn't like...
And this is the story too, where that same guy, I think it was John Burroughs, touched the craft.
That's right.
And got the transfer of information. He said he was like flooded with ones and zeros, binary, and was able to recall it later. And like they actually, I forget what it said, but they actually translated the binary that he allegedly got from touching the outside of this UFO on an Air Force base in the UK.
Whoa.
So say you're one of those guys.
I'm one of those guys who had that experience.
You walked out in the woods and you saw a UFO up close. You touched it. You the next day saw physical traces of it in that same location. So you can rule out hallucinating, you can rule out dreaming, you can rule out a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm very heavily reminded right now of one of our earlier episodes we did with Mason. I think it was the What If It Really Happened episode where we were talking about ghosts or whatever, and he was like, I remember Mason being like, I would stop paying taxes. I would never work a job again. Like he was freaking out, being like, it would change everything.
And these escalate really quickly for me, because the first one, I can write that off as like, that's a drone, or that's...
Yeah.
There's something I'm not aware of. It's a military aircraft.
I can allow that to be unknown. I don't know.
That doesn't change my entire way that I view life.
Yeah. That I interpret the universe.
I think if I get to number 2, it does.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, to me at that point, so, and we can go through this at some point too, but like, you know, I enjoy the list of these are things that are commonly seen as UFOs that don't have good explanations, but could be whatever. And a very obvious one of those is that it's military technology that is unacknowledged, doesn't, isn't talked about, whatever. The only thing I would have in my brain is like, did I see some fucking nuclear powered fighter jet?
The next B-2 bomber.
Yeah, but is, from some black ops, whatever that like not even the Air Force knows about. But even that to me would be so hard to like wrap my head around.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would change everything. I mean, again, I think I would try to document it. I would probably do what those dudes did. I would try to write a book.
Tell everyone about it.
Yeah, tell the story. I mean,
that's so hard too, though, because it gets harder the further you go down this list of even trying to tell other people about
completely.
Because most people aren't going to believe you.
No.
Most people are going to assume that you're crazy or
100%.
hallucinating at the very least.
Yep.
I mean, that can mess up friendships, family, work, your whole life. Like, and now, do you really want to be the UFO guy?
I mean,
because you are the UFO guy if you start telling people about it.
Fam, we're already the UFO guys.
I'm just saying, you don't come back from writing a book about your UFO encounter. That's who you are now.
You definitely don't. But I do feel like I don't know. There's like a level of urgency that I hear some of the firsthand account people express, like Big Mike, where it's just very authentic and personal.
That's what really got me about his story. It was like, even as a guy who obviously spends a lot of time thinking and talking and reading and listening about this topic, he still came in there like, I don't know what to do other than to share this with you guys.
For sure.
And I think I'm sharing it mostly just so I'm not the only one. It's like when you smell something horrible and you're like, oh my God, smell this. Just like so that someone else is experiencing it by proxy.
Right.
Of like, it struck me as he just needed to tell somebody about it.
Definitely.
And that was a room that wasn't going to judge him.
Definitely. And there was, I'll get back to the original proposition of what would you actually do, but there was another element to his story that, not his story, but I guess like the way that he told it, that was just, it was so specific. Like, you know how when someone's making up a lie on the spot to you, you just kind of tip your head and go like, this kind of feels like this is coming out of an empty place inside your head.
Mm-hmm.
There was a level of like specificity to some of the things he was saying where I was like, damn, like, he was like, and then this one over here is doing this thing. And I don't know, it didn't seem like it was coming from some sort of like vacant hole. It didn't come off rehearsed. It just seemed like he was like, I have this crystalline fucking videotape in my head of like what happened that night. And I can point to the locations and the things that happened.
Yeah. But there were also moments of like, oh, now that I'm saying this out loud, like
the timeline's
that
goofy.
Was weird.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure what happened there whatever. That made it more believable too.
Totally.
And like, yeah, I think I would have a similar reaction of just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I gotta tell somebody.
Right.
If nothing else, just to like get it out of my own head a little bit.
For sure. I think you got to get it out of your own head, but I also just like, I totally agree with you. I don't think anybody wants to be the dude who's like the UFO evangelist, who's like going to all their family and friends and being like,
I don't know. I mean, for
aliens are real. Like, no, I don't know.
For some reason, and probably a variety of reasons, everybody in that room has kind of made that choice. You're a member of a UFO group.
Yeah, but I guess
you go to monthly meetings.
I mean, but like you and I went in a way of like, this is like fascinating and curious and interesting. And
I guess I'm saying the people that like dedicate their time to going out and researching and organizing these groups and being like founding members of chapters.
They're pot committed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And then I try to make some money off it. That's what the fuck I do. That's what the fuck I do.
But then you can't do that because then you
look like you're trying to make money off it, and it didn't really happen.
And then I think you're doing a disservice to people that have other people that have these experiences. You're making them even less credible than they already are. Because now I'm going to see, oh, this guy has a motivation. Like with Greer, I think he has a motivation to make money off of what he's doing and to call attention to himself and to feed his ego off of what he's doing.
It does appear
which
that
then,
way.
I don't know what the word is, delegitimizes or whatever.
No, that's right.
Is that a word?
Mm-hmm.
Delegitimizes the entire field and everyone else that has these actual experiences.
No, that's true.
Because somebody's out here trying, charging $10,000 to take you out in the desert and give you night vision goggles.
The weird thing, the weird thing about him though is like he has never claimed to have a personal like abduction. He's just like, I'm the expert,
right?
Which
makes it way shadier to me.
Yeah, that he separates himself from the
Well, and it just seems like you're almost, it puts you in a position to like prey on other people almost.
True.
Because then people who have had these experiences are going to see you as like, oh, good, you understand. You're somebody like...
You can help me.
Yeah, exactly.
So the third kind is that I high-fived an alien?
No. Third is that you saw an alien.
Like a physical being.
Yeah.
That was not just physical evidence of there being like a craft near me.
Yeah.
I met an alien, bro.
Dude, I
met an alien.
Life gets so fucking weird from that moment on.
I mean,
right?
100%, dude. Bro, sometimes I watch those NASA camera feeds of like some weird shit happening out in space, like around the ISS, and I'm like, oh man, I feel kind of weird right now.
That level is for sure the point for me where everything else stops. That is what I'm doing now, is figuring this out, or at least like there would be so much processing I would have to do to even get back to a point where I could go about
be
normal stuff. Yeah.
I do find
that's the one that for sure changes everything.
That's real. I can fuck with that take. I like the inclusion of there being like humanoid creatures involved.
Well, in what will probably be a part 2 now, because we're already at least an hour into this.
Yeah, and I have a story to tell, and you have some other ones too. We might have to part 2 it.
I would like to tell you in part 2 about the beautiful blonde-haired space tutors.
Oh, buddy.
Or what some people call the Nordics, because there are very human-looking alien reports too.
Oh, buddy.
So I would guess that's to cover all that shit.
Word. Should we go through the rest of the kinds?
Well, there's really just 4th left, which is being abducted, which I think is, I mean, it's the same as 3, like plus PTSD, and now I need a therapist.
I think I would need a therapist after 3 for sure. I would doubly need one after 4.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, if you're poking around in my nose or my butt or stuff, or I've seen the inside of a spaceship.
Oof.
I'm going to need a lot of help working through that one, and I'm probably going to fail anyway.
Oopa dupa. That is not, man, I don't even.
I think that one, like 90% of the time, would push you off the deep end.
You said you wanted to go, though.
Yeah.
But you could never come back.
No, probably not.
You'd have to be like, this is my life now. You gotta start a new Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh my God, you would be. You'd be like the fucking Star-Lord.
Sure.
You don't watch those
I'm
movies?
not that familiar, no. Sorry.
All right, well, there's 2 movies I've seen that you haven't done, both of the Guardians movies.
Well, you need to watch the Close Encounters. So
I do. All right, so I think what we'll do for this week is we'll break. I'll make Spencer watch the Guardians movies. Spencer will make me watch Close Encounters.
Hell yeah.
And we'll come back. We'll finish up with part 2. We have a bunch of hella interesting stories.
So I want to talk about praying mantis aliens.
Whoa.
15-foot tall praying mantis aliens.
Whoa.
And the beautiful blonde-haired space tutors.
Okay, dope. And I'm gonna talk about some of the more famed and credible ones on top of what Spencer's already talked about that are a little bit more recent, as well as we'll go through that checklist of things that potentially can account for some of those lights in the sky. So that'll be part 2 of What If You Saw a UFO.
And if you want to join us at the next MUFON meeting, hit us up on Twitter or something, and maybe we can carpool.
Yeah, at What If Pod or hi at whatifpodcast.com.
And if you're not in Minnesota, I bet your state also has them.
Totally.
So
check it out.
You should look into that. MUFON.org, I believe, is their website.
Do some Googling.
Hit the Googler, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
We'll be back next week with another episode of the What If Podcast.